Well, hello and welcome. Laura Brandenburg here from Bridging the Gap, here today with Andrea Wilson, who is an ACBA recipient and a participant in our Business Analyst Blueprint program, and has agreed to share a little bit more about her career and her experience with the program. And thank you so much, Andrea. You're joining us from Tallahassee, right?
Tallahassee, Florida, yes.
Yes, welcome, welcome. And you are an you just told me, information resource management specialist. Is that correct?
Information resource management consultant. It is
consultant. Yeah, way better. Yeah. So do you want to just start by maybe sharing a little bit about where you were before you started the Blueprint program and what you were looking for out of your career?
Sure. It's been quite the roller coaster. I started my job a few years back. It was new to me. I started as a systems analyst, and really, I was doing coding, and I was there for just a few months. And someone mentioned that there was this business analyst role coming open, and just kind of one of the managers put a bug in my ear and said, you've been doing really good, that this is an opportunity. We'd hate to lose you. We'd hate to see you walk out of the door. And so it kind of fell on me to do a little bit of research. I had apparently been doing business analysis type things and did not realize that's what I was doing. So I started kind of searching around, asking questions, gathering information. And in my searches, I came across Bridging the Gap, and saw some information about starting a business analysis career. And I thought, okay, well, I'll read this and see what I get, right? And one of the things it talked about was kind of looking at transferable skills. And I thought, okay, what are these skills? And I started to read through them and realized, okay, I can do that. I've done that. I've been doing that. And I think that gave me just a little bit of confidence enough to say, okay, I'm going to apply for this, right? So I did. And I got an interview, and it was going to be a huge jump for me. So I thought, oh, okay. So I really need to know what I need to know, right? So I took a few more of those free courses that were available from Bridging the Gap, because I was so excited about what I was learning, and it seemed like things that I could apply, right? It really made sense. It wasn't just this vague notion of stuff. So I did, and I went through a few of those and went through the interview, made the second interview, and there I was with just these few free trainings. I got a $26,000 pay increase, which was huge, right? Mm-hmm. So immediately, I'm in the role, and there's a lot, the heavy hitter stakeholders and all these things. And I really wanted to hone my skills more. So you found that I was a return customer. I took the use cases and wireframes class. After that, I jumped into the Blueprint almost immediately, and it just kind of changed my world. And I realized I'm being wordy here, but I really wanted to talk about my path, because I lacked the full confidence I needed to do, to just really push forward. And as I learned more concrete and structured skills, I was able to start applying them. And once I did that, I quickly became the go-to person after the Blueprint, and that was amazing. That was good, and I became kind of the right-hand person, and I've just flourished since then. So when an opportunity for the ACBA came open, oh man, I just didn't have the money. I didn't have the money. COVID happened, and our office didn't have the money, but I'd had so much success, and I said, okay, I'm just going to bite the bullet here and pay for this and do it. And the very first thing that happened after I finished it was I posted it on LinkedIn, and the CIO sent me a message saying, superb, this is awesome. So I got immediate recognition from a place I did not expect it. So the confidence just continued to grow. And that's how I got here.
Wow. I'm so glad you shared that. I had no idea. Oh, that was so gorgeous. That's such a beautiful story. And just like, there's so much that I think we can unpack there and go into a little bit, but the piece that you started with is like, I have like the transferable skills. I've been doing this
Mhm.
before, but I didn't know what it was called. And like, so can you just talk a little bit about like in that first interview when you were interviewing for that business analyst position, and then that's where you got the $26,000, right?
Mhm.
Pay increase. So like, what
Mhm.
were you like? How did you start to speak to those things? Because we have a lot of people in that position. So what gave you the confidence to say, I can do this based on what I've done in the past?
I started thinking about roles that I had in the past, right? So when I looked at I think it was an ebook or it was something don't remember. It was so long ago that I got from Bridging the Gap about starting my BA career. And there's that roadmap there, right?
Mhm.
And one of the first things on the roadmap was looking at transferable skills. And I thought, okay, so I've done QA. Um, I'm process driven. I have I've done these diagrams. For programming. I've done flow charting and things like that. So there were so many things on that list that I said, I have these skills. I just have not seen them under this title, right? So once I picked out several of them and I said, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I've done this and I've done that. Okay, let me read a bit further. Let me see exactly what a BA is doing. And I'm like, okay, when you come into something you just don't know, it was just kind of a no-brainer, right? You get to know who's who, you get to know the why behind the situation, you get to know what's the end goal, what are we trying to do, and what is my role, right? So those were all things that I saw very early on, and it's actually been a repeat thing that I've seen across many of the courses since I've taken so many. You always start there, and I've seen that, and that was kind of what made me say, okay, I've got the confidence, I can move forward with this, and let's just go and see where it takes us. And that's what I did.
Yeah. So, but then you were in the first position, right? And it sounded like it felt like a big jump. So you had the confidence that you had done it before, but still when you were
Mhm.
in it, can you talk a little bit about being in it, officially in it for the first time? Kind of,
Well,
yeah.
and it's funny because it's an IT, it's an IT office, and
Mhm.
in an IT role, I started kind of in this development role, right? But as a developer, you have to do your own business analysis anyway. Um, but it's different. You do your developer analysis. So once I moved into the role, I think I was still considered a developer, and folks would come to me and ask me development type questions, or when I would go to these meetings with the stakeholders, there was kind of this expectation that breaking down the business process was really not where I was going to go. And being able to hold those conversations to help to define scope and to rein in scope, actually, and to keep it from creeping. And then just having those conversations about where are we going? What's the plan here? Is everybody on the same page about what the plan is? That's what, when I first stepped into the role, there was just kind of this uncertainty. And having taken some of the courses, I had some tools. I'd actually bought some of the templates that were available.
Mhm.
So I had ideas for starting meetings with those stakeholders, and having those discussions and trying to figure out where to go, looking at artifacts that already existed. So those were things that gave me structure and allowed me to function in a way that was very organized and present myself in a way that was very organized. And using those tools, putting out professional looking meeting agendas, that was very helpful. So I gained a lot of those things through these courses.
That's awesome. Yeah. And it sounds like there wasn't maybe a lot of structure to the business analyst role in your organization, right? Some people have like, this is how you do things, but they were really looking to you to bring
Right.
that structure.
So we have for our agency, we've got what I think is a small IT department. We've got quite a few developers, network team, server team, all these sister positions. But the BA position there was fairly new. We'd had another person in the role, and she kind of had her own process. It was very informal, and I think I had the autonomy to be informal, but I really wanted to, the structure is important. And then that helps the tech team, the developers, that helps keep everybody on the same page. So having that structure provides a guideline for everybody to follow. And that also provides some continuity from each iteration of the project or each sprint that we do along with our users. So very informal and kind of these sessions with our users were very informal. But now we could go to a place where everything was documented, everything was there in black and white or whatever color I chose to make the template. But then we started into this very structured process and our users got used to it and they liked it. They were happy with now, okay, this is organized and it makes some sense and we could refer back to documents. So it was a big change, I think, for everybody, but it was a pleasant change. Management, my direct management changed about a year into that role for me. And the person that came in from outside the organization. So she learned that I had a different role and, it was a bit apprehensive, not just with me, but the whole team, right? And quickly after seeing that structure, oh, you guys know what you're doing here, and adopted some of those things. And it was very helpful to bring us all together.
Yeah, that's amazing. So it sounds like you not just excelled in the role, but brought a lot of leadership to that role and a lot of standards and gained a lot of traction. And that you mentioned being the go-to person, and I'm guessing that's kind of what made you the go-to person. Is that a fair? Yeah.
After the new manager came in, yeah, that did. So once she got to see what we were doing in our processes, and the blueprint was coming along for me at that time, we just were able to mesh and talk through a lot of these documents and these diagrams that were created. And then just showing the overall process, looking at context between the different systems was there because it had been documented. So quickly I became the let's go ask Andrea.
It's a great place to be in.
Brings so much confidence, doesn't it? When people feel confident enough, comfortable enough to come and ask you, especially if there's okay, we need an answer now. You probably have it, what is there? And yes, that did build a lot of confidence, but I couldn't have done it, I think, without all of the studying that I did and all the direction that I had and all the guidance I had from these different programs. And then even the free things that you've put out there and looking at the studies from other people, watching their confidence build. So the ACBA was a no-brainer. I'm glad to see that there's a certification that came out of that. Mm-hmm. I have a project management certification through PMI, but this just for my business analyst skills just took things to a different level.
Yeah, thank you for that. So just talking about your blueprint experience specifically, so any one of those 4 modules like business process, use cases, data modeling, or the BA essentials, does one of those stand out specifically, where we could talk about an example of what you did for your work sample and how that played out for you? Which one maybe jumps out to you?
Oh man, those were awesome. So I had done the use cases training before that. Mm-hmm. And the business process, I could pick, okay, so data modeling. All right. So
that's a good one. Data modeling is always a good one.
Because that one's kind of a fuzzy one to grasp. Mm-hmm. So at the time we were working on a project where there had to be some changes in where the data was going to live and how the process worked, right? So that was a good one to do. And it was strenuous in that it caused a lot of thinking, but it also was helpful in that it caused all that thinking, right? So it as you build, you start to ask all these questions, and the more questions you ask, the more answers you can get. And you'll find that there are yet more questions that you did not think of. So that was, I think, where I learned the most as a BA, and knowing that I did not have to be a technical person, that I don't have to dig into it that way. So that was a very good experience for me.
But you mentioned you did have a bit of a technical background, right?
I did.
This was still a new area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what's funny is, and I remember asking this through the process when I submitted one of the assignments, we moved into the next step and we had a webinar and you started talking about how to, oh gosh, what was it? We were drawing relationships between these different things. And
Entity relationship. Yeah.
Right. I started asking pretty technical questions and quickly my response back was, oh, wait, yes, that's where we're going, but we're not there yet. So I needed to back down a little bit. And the learning point for me there was in having conversations with stakeholders to not go there into this very technical jargon that you don't have to. It's great when some of them understand it, but sometimes you don't need to. You can put these things out in front of them and have these discussions, and you don't have to have these tech terms to have these discussions with them. You can translate when you get back to your IT team. And that was a big takeaway from me during that module.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so just, I want to talk a little bit more about the CIO piece too, because I know the ACBA was a big piece, right? So it used to, you were part of a blueprint before we offered the ACBA, and then now have earned your ACBA, and with the final piece of that. So what went into your mind about like wanting the certification, and then also just sharing the certification? Like, was it, some people get nervous about, like, were you nervous about sharing it, or were you excited to share it? And then obviously you had a great result. So can you talk a little bit about that part of your process too, in your journey?
Okay, so obviously we're in COVID times and I have been working remotely. So, you know, you lose a little bit of that water cooler time, right? Where you share what you've got going on daily, or what's happening, or what your new goal is. And when I made the decision to do the ACBA, it was pretty abrupt because I had said, okay, I can't do this right now. I really can't afford this right now. And I think you and I shared a few emails because you've had such this personal touch all along. And there was something you said that made me just rethink this and just take the plunge. So I did this in my off hours and through the holidays, right? And I got it finished. And I had this nervousness about sharing it because I had not talked to anybody about it. I had not had that discussion other than you, but not with any of my coworkers. But I was also very excited because to me, having done the blueprint, it would have been great to have had that as an outcome, right? I did that while I was at work and in the office, and it was like, oh, yay, I finished this. Okay, I finished it. I've got a certificate, and certificates are good, but having something that documents, right, that you have applied what you learned is very different than getting a certificate of completion. So it was kind of a no-brainer at that point to share it. I felt good about what I had done, and now I had something to show that I applied it. I applied it successfully. So I sat, and it was one evening after the workday was over, dinner was on the table, and I sat down and I said, okay, I have not shared this. I need to jump on LinkedIn, make an update, right? I have done something that is worthy of celebrating. And I just recall hearing that and some of the webinars we had during the ACBA. Let's share your successes, right? And what can come back from sharing your successes, or what it can do for other people. So I did that quick share, and the next day I was not looking for responses. I just got a notification that I had a response. And when I opened it and I saw who it was from, I thought, wow, okay, so just what we were expecting. There are people out there who you don't know are looking, who you don't expect to be paying attention, who may see exactly what you're doing, right? So when I got that from him, I thought, oh, wow, okay. So there's confirmation that sharing this was a good idea. And then a couple of days later, again, yet from my immediate supervisor, who I had not discussed this with because I was doing it on my own, saying, hey, I see you, good job. And I thought, okay, so when we return back to the office, I'm sure that will be a topic of conversation. I'll have my badge up. So I'm looking to see what's next. So I've seen just all this growth through this process, going through all of these things, and then topping it off with the ACBA. I'm like, okay, so what's next for me? I'm sure that there will be something, and there may be something in the works. Who knows? I'm looking forward to it. I've got my fingers
What do
crossed.
you see? What do you see as next?
Um, oh, I don't know. I feel a lot of confidence right now. And the funny thing is after, and I didn't think about this just a minute ago, after I shared that, I've had two recruiters touch base with me and say, are you interested in looking at something? I have not responded to those yet, other than to say, hey, I'm open to conversation just to see what they'll say. I'm happy in a full-time position, but you never know. I might be able to point somebody else in that direction. But I feel a confidence now that I did not have before. So I've had these steps in my confidence level, and it just keeps rising. Just keeps rising.
That's awesome. So one last question for you. If you had
Okay.
not chosen to invest in the blueprint, where do you think you might be today?
Oh wow. I don't know. I would hope that I would have done something, but I'm not sure that it would have produced the fruit that I received through the blueprint.
Thank you. Your story is absolutely incredible. And I just want to, I mean, I appreciate that we have been part of that journey, but also want to just celebrate all that you did on the journey, because you did the work, you applied what you've learned, you shared it. And that is a big part of the effort too. And or they go together, right? We give you the tools, but you leverage the tools and you put them out there and you applied them on a day-to-day basis, and we're doing the work. And so that is huge, and my hat is off to you too. So any last words before we close, Andrea? Anything you want to
Just want
share?
to say thank you for what you're doing, because I feel like I've been here while Bridging the Gap is growing up too. There have been so many new things implemented since I started. And I see what you all are doing. I see the team growing, which means you're having some success. And I feel success from your success. So I want to say thank you for what you're doing to the business analysis community.
Thank you for that. Yeah, it's been an exciting time, and it's to help people like you. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh.